What black market did kids at your school run? In middle school every Wednesday there was dollar cookie day at lunch. Every couple weeks this one kid brought like $50 and got a shitload of cookies and just gave them out for free. We called him the Cookie King. A shitload equals 50. Candy bars. We would get those stupid boxes of candy to sell in support of our sports teams. Each candy was $1 each, but we would raise the price, upsell or take loans and charge interest. Overall, this legitimate fundraising business raised an additional 100% in value through teenage corruption, all of which went directly into the pockets of those of us forced to participate in these things. Oh man. During the glory days of 1999 to 2001 or so, when Napster first burst onto the scene, a friend of mine who was rich and had a really nice and fast computer made a killing downloading tunes and selling the burnt CDs to us at a tidy profit. Every week I would give him a fresh list of songs and he delivered every time. Good times. T83 programs. Not games, those were already out of control. I sold helpful programs that did things like solve the quadratic formula, calculate distance between 2 points for both 2D and 3D, force vectors, and so on. Once teachers caught on, they started checking calculators for my programs prior to tests. That's when kids in my school wrote or downloaded software that would fake an empty calculator with no programs. It would only reveal the actual contents when a certain button combination was pressed. That's glorious. I would have been one of your customers. Asterisk asterisk NESGAMES asterisk asterisk dad worked for Nintendo was I think the story he told. Last time I posted this, the theory was his dad stole them somewhere. Either way, you'd give the kid a list. A few days later you had your game for $5 or $10 bucks. Can't remember what he charged. Back in grade 5 or 6, my elementary school implemented a new Apple School program to promote healthy eating and cut down on child obesity within the school. Their process was sending adults into classrooms, mostly school staff and faculty, but some nurses and dietitians too, and they would review a kid's lunch, decide what was healthy and what wasn't, and confiscate the unhealthy food from kids. If there was a kid whose entire lunch was unhealthy, the rest of the class had to give them a piece from theirs if they had any to spare. It just made kids miserable, so for 2 weeks kids were stashing, hoarding, and selling candy and unhealthy food out of their lockers. At this point, parents were furious that kids had to be sneaky in order to just eat lunch, so there was a shit ton of backlash, and the school decided to just stop. The system is still implemented technically, but they just inform kids about healthy eating rather than taking their food. That seems legally questionable. Okay, I still remember this story very well and actually wanted to tell it. I was the dealer, actually. So in my school we used this special type of paper for notes. It was like more friendly for the environment or something. Anyways, our school was kinda strict on the stuff you were allowed to take with you to class. So all we had were basic school supplies and nothing to entertain yourself with if the lesson was boring. I found out how to roll and massage the hard note papers into a soft texture. I still don't really know how that works. I guess you squeeze out the chemicals that make it a strong paper or SMTH. Basically they would feel like really soft pieces of cloth. I kept making them and people thought they were really cool. Since it was just normal paper, but it felt really soft. BTW, this was when I was like 6 or something, so that stuff was interesting at the time. I didn't tell anyone my technique and just made more soft papers and traded them with people for candy or cool pens, and she did this for like a few months until it became uninteresting. So I legit had a business when I was 6, turning paper soft, and it was very successful too. Not necessarily black market, but in 8th grade Spanish we were required to have an organized binder with all of our work and homework. I organized a system where only half of the grade had to do work at a time. I assigned one person to another based on handwriting in class period, and they would exchange the same binder every day during lunch period. We did it by week, and if they had an issue that prevented them from doing it that week, I had 3 smart kids who they would pay $10 to, and I would get half of it. Worked like a charm and never got caught. I passed it down to a kid in the grade below me, and rumor is the system still runs to this day. Pine cones for clay. The pine cones were used to attack rival clans. We used the clay to make pots. Was good fun for about a year until the teachers caught on and clamped down on us. This has got to be the weirdest. I had so many questions. Why do you mean rival clans? Why did you all make pots? Was the school an experiment in primitive living? One kid in middle school sold Dum Dum lollipops. He carried them around in a shopping bag, and I believe he charged a quarter. In high school I had a friend who would sell cookies 1 for $1. Eventually staff got wind and told her to stop. So people would give her money for no reason. And the next day she would give them cookies for unrelated reasons. Edit. Almost forgot elementary school. Kids would sell their parents jewelry for ice cream money. One kid sold his grandmother's engagement ring for 50 cents. The edited story, though. Wow, that ring was only worth half a cookie. Students aren't allowed to provide goods or services, so in elementary school, if you wanted to make a buck, you had to do it in secret. In elementary school, one kid sold little origami boxes for like 25.50 each. He was smart and made sure to tell us not to tell anyone. We also had an underground Pokemon phase in 3rd grade, when like at least half the grade got really into Pokemon. But one day, when a bunch of kids were flexing their cards on the playground, one of the 5th grade teachers cracked down on them like a fucking D-drug raid, and that was that. Another kid in high school sold snacks out of his fucking backpack. Dude did it so much he began locking his bag with a master lock, and I think he kept ice packs in his bag to keep the drinks cold. I always bought fruit roll-ups from him for 50c. Plastic straw pieces. In 6th grade, we had to run 5 laps around a track, which made a mile, every school day except Friday. To keep track of laps, they would hand you a small piece of straw when you passed. All we had to do was get a piece of straw, buy a pack of the same kind, and cut them to the same length. You could sell them to students under the bleachers before we ran, to knock a lap or 2 off. They didn't time us, and there were like 40 of us to a class, so as long as you didn't finish too far ahead of anyone else, you could take a leisurely pace and still finish around the same time as the people running properly. Save the turtles. He did save the turtles. Elementary school. Sold gum for $1 a piece, buying a pack for $1, and sold my lunch tickets, brought my own snacks. I ran an underground Pokemon card trading club at my summer camp. We were like the fucking Mafia. The counselors never found out. Trust me, we knew what you and everyone else was doing. 7 years experience. Talking, but 1. Kids engaged in trading left us counselors alone too. To catch you would require us to discipline you and kill moral 3. Too hot out and underpaid to care. Funnily enough, pixie sticks. They got banned in our school cause kids would snort them to get nose bleeds to get out of class. I sold pixie sticks for 10 cents a pop, which was quite a markup from the 1 cent retail price. Just eat a cigarette and you'll throw up in exactly 10 minutes. When I was in 1st grade I got a chemistry set. It was a little cheap microscope with a few slides and what I can only guess was water with different food coloring in it. That combined with some other liquids I found around the house, I made a concoction that I put in little tubs that perfume samples come in. Then I took it to school and charged $1 per tub with the claim that it would make you sick enough to go home. What I can only guess was water with different food coloring in it. In a chemistry set. I gonna go out on a limb and say maybe chemicals. Surprised it hasn't been mentioned yet, but graphing calculators at my school were big. My school has a class set of calculators in each math class. The really nice graphing ones too. I believe they are $160 each. High school black market prices in the early zeros were around $80, a bit more if you wanted Mario and Tetris pre-installed. I ran a girly magazine business and was doing pretty well until this one dumbass kid, who I never would have sold any to in the first place, got a copy from one of my other customers, got busted with it at home because he was too much of a dumb fuck to stash it properly, then totally ratted me out. To this day, I still want to kick his ass for that. Holy shit, I did the same thing. 6th grade for me. Catholic school, they made me donate the money to the needy.